Welcome to another edition of the Art of Women Tampa Bay Art Chat. I'm Renee, Warmack, producer, speaker, and coach, and I present these as a way for diverse women in the Tampa Bay area to learn and grow and to promote and uplift women who are doing some great stuff in the creative realm. And I'm so pleased to have my friend and who has been a film mentor to me, Victoria Jorgensen, who's a Tampa native and filmmaker and owns businesses and has an amazing background in film. And she lives in Gulfport. She's a fellow USF, University of South Florida alumna. And I am very pleased to have her here to talk about specifically her two films, her latest films, and get a little advice and also see where she hangs out online so you can connect with her as well. Welcome, Victoria. Tell me anything I missed on your bio, anything you want to tell everybody.
I think you got it. You know, we've all been in quarantine here for a little bit and had to come up with some new ways to do things. So I welcome the interview and love to talk about it.
Right. Well, I'm honored to have you, and I appreciate you taking time today. I will tell you, viewers, that in 2006, 2007, when I produced my first movie, the Film Commission sent me to somebody when I was reaching out trying to find advice on how to make my first movie, and they sent me to Victoria Jorgensen. Lo and behold, she happened to know a family member of mine from way back, which was serendipitous. And we've known each other ever since. And she made a big impact on some portions of my movie I was making. So it was great to get some advice from her back in the day. And she's a great networker in addition to her art and her creative skills, a phenomenal networker. I mean, she will connect you and help you find your way to whatever it is you need, just very plugged into the arts community. One movie I do want to say that touched me and about your big body of work and the film that was presented in Cannes, I want you to talk about that. Was A Moving Feast, and Victoria has that, I believe, out online on YouTube, and it is about the University of South Florida film program that no longer exists in the way that it did back in the day, and I love that. That's my favorite movie. It's a documentary, and it chronicles all these amazing ninja creatives that she knows still, some of them, and used to hang out with back in the day. And I really recommend A Moving Feast. So Victoria, tell me about your work you're doing now and these two main short movies that I know you're promoting and that are getting into film festivals, I believe. So talk about that.
Well, just a quick correction really quick. Moving Feast is one of my favorites as well. And but that's not the one that went to Cannes. It was Tiny Bacteria.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay.
So although it went to several festivals as well, but
sure.
The two latest movies, in chronological order, starting with the not most recent one, to use a double negative, is Interview with Saint Petra. And that is a movie that we tried to figure out. I had a movie planned in March to shoot, and of course we had to quell everything because of the situation. So I said, gosh, we need to figure out a way to make films. And of course, Zoom came up, and I wanted to make it, but I didn't want it to seem like the typical Zoom. So what we did was Helen Hansen French, who's a dancer in the area. I asked her to be in it, and Becca McCoy, who is somebody you think people won't work with you because they're so amazing, but Becca she had just left to Chicago she was becoming quite well known in her opera and acting career. And then this whole thing came down and she had to move back to Florida because, of course, it's terrible for the creative community, for Broadway, etc. So Becca was an amazing person to work with. Not only since I couldn't go to her home and I couldn't go to Helen's home, they had to set up their own situation for us to film in. And they both did an incredible job. But Becca was just, I mean, I didn't have to tell her to do anything. There was no direction needed. She's just an amazing person. She's now in Atlanta and working up there. So it's a little film about a woman who is practicing her love in her living room, which is dance. And her computer all of a sudden comes on, and she's like, what's going on? And she walks over to look, and she engages in this conversation with Saint Petra, who's begins by smoking a cigarette, and she's got her halo on and everything. And she's trying to figure out a way to make it easier for St. Peter at the gate, because there's so many people coming in with COVID. So she's trying to pre-authorize who should come in and who shouldn't. And I won't tell you anymore because it's just delightful. But working
I've
with
seen
both
it.
of
Great.
those, yes, working with both of them was just amazing, amazing. And it's a delightful little film. It's currently showing at the Creative Pinellas Annual Art Show. And it's going to be showing at Dunedin next week. So you can catch that. That's going to be a combination virtual and in-person film festival. Okay. And the other one is, it's got it's kind of a strange title, but if you sit and think about it, it really makes sense. But it's Feng Shui, Faux Pas, Grifter. So that is a film starring Janet Roberts, who was in a documentary I did more recently called The Magic Hour. She is just amazing. It's actually a poem that I wrote. My background from USF before I discovered film was in writing and poetry. And so I've been through this pandemic writing a lot more poetry than I have in probably 30, 40 years. So I really loved this little piece, and I saw Jan doing it, and we decided, Fabiana Lowe and myself teach a class on how to make a movie on your cell phone. So we said we need to make a movie to show people what it can look like. So she got all rigged up. She had all her attachments and her mics and everything, and she directed the photography on that. And we shot in Gulfport at the beach, and it was just very smooth. We had a dog trainer that came out and let us use one of her extremely well-trained dogs, Oliver, to be the other actor with Janet. So Janet spouts out this poetry as the sun is setting, and I won't tell you anymore because it is a delightful twist.
It's adorable. It's adorable.
Yes,
I've seen them both, and they're wonderful. Excuse me. So you shot those through one with Zoom, and one was actually with an iPhone out on the beach.
Right. Now that the one with the iPhone was shot on an iPhone 11 Pro, and you can make an amazing film with it. I mean, the quality can be really amazing if you attach all the bells and whistles, even if you don't really. But the name, I just wanted to mention the name too, is Canine Focus Academy that loaned us that animal for the period. And it, just an amazing, if you need your dog trained, call them up.
Great. Yeah. And who owns that?
Oh gosh, I can't think of her name right now.
Is that Amber and Shelby, or Shelby and?
No.
Okay.
I can't think of her name. That's terrible.
That's okay.
Anyway.
We'll put that out there.
Yes,
too.
It is Shelby Konarski.
Yeah, she's a friend.
Yeah.
She's actually a friend of mine. Yeah. She and her spouse, and I'm like, oh man, is that? I don't want to miss this. And I'm pretty sure that's what she does. And yeah, I see they're really good with that. So cool. That's cool to see her get involved in filmmaking. That could be like
that was her. Dream. Somebody referred her to me, and I called her, and she came out, brought the dog, and she was just, both of them were amazing.
They're good people. I love them. Yeah. Cool. It's a small world. So, well, congratulations on the success with both of those. And so you're available.
Oh, and the last one is going to be showing at Sunshine Screen Festival coming up in the next week or two, too. So both local festivals.
Awesome. Congratulations on getting your work out there in these festivals. Talk to me about Tiny Bacteria and that journey, and who's in it.
Certainly. Well, the infamous Eugenie Bondurant, who was in Hunger Games. I forget all the details behind it. Mockingjay 3, I think.
I believe it was.
As Tigress. And she is another one. We were actually in a little writing. The actors and writers come together the writers want to hear their words spoken. And the actors are always looking for things to do. So we meet up occasionally and just hand out our pages, and on the spot they may have 5 or 10 minutes to look at the material, and then they act it out. And I just asked her if she would do it, not even considering her for the part, which was it's about Martha Gellhorn, who was one of Hemingway's wives, and she was also the first female war correspondent, an amazing, strong woman. And she took that thing, she read it, and I said, there's nobody else that can do this. I mean, you are just perfect for the part. And we got Charlie Bragg as director of photography. Rich Rodman did the color from Silverbox Studios. We had a slew of other people working on the set. My writing partner is Marina Shemwell, who is German short story writer and has been moving into screenplays. But we formed this partnership several years back. We wrote a screenplay called Midnight Birds that we were actually paid to write, which is rare in this field. But it was a feature, full feature. And we came up with a strange little method of writing where we would just kind of list attributes and different things that we wanted to be in the film, and then go home and each write 5 pages.
Wow.
And of course, they didn't match, but we figured out ways to meld them together, and then we would go back and write more pages and more pages and meld them together. So we have a really good working relationship. Her short stories are amazing. And she had written that short story, and I converted it into a screenplay. So, but nice. I guess one of the pieces of advice I'd have to anybody who is working in film or writing or any of the creative fields is collaborate and learn from those around you, and don't be afraid to ask. I know probably the biggest cast and crew film that I ever did was called The Evening Room. And I so badly wanted Curtis Graham to DP that for me. And I said, there's no way, I have a little money, but I don't have much. And so I talked to a gentleman who was referring people to me. He goes, well, why don't you just ask Curtis? And I said, so I asked him to lunch, and I asked him, I sent him the play, and he said, I really like it. I'd like to do it. And so we started talking about money, and we came to terms, I'll just put it that way, with something that worked for both of us. And it was amazing. I think there were 15 cast and crew members, and it was just really an amazing effort. I look back on my notes and say, how did you ever do this? I mean, we did everything from the food to whatever. So
yeah, I've seen it. It's great. And where did you shoot that?
We shot that some in Tampa, some in St. Pete, and some in Tarpon Springs. And it was in the middle of August. Again, you just ask people. The film commissioner for St. Pete, Clearwater, I was looking for a bar location, and they referred me to this woman who'd never met me before. And she said, yes. She said, we're not open on Sunday, so just come and I'll give you the keys and you can have it. I'm like, that's 2-story bar, right?
Yeah.
It's hard keeping the actors away from the bar, though.
Well,
but many of those actors in that film have gone on to do huge things.
I love it.
Mary Rachel, she's been, I can't even, LBJ, all kinds of different films.
Wow.
And Vivian Alvarez, who just recently moved back here from LA to start an acting school. So Vivian Fleming Alvarez. So she's going to be, I think, starting up here any second, if not already. Yeah. So,
obviously huge takeaway from talking with you is, with Curtis Graham and Becca McCoy, 2 specific examples, ask people, it really is ultimately, comes down in my opinion of, fear of rejection or having pride or an ego. Whenever we're like, oh, I'm afraid they might say no. Well, let them say no. If somebody says no, that's all they say, no. And then you move on.
Well, they all want to work. So if it's a good quality script, they're going to be interested. And if you treat them like professionals, they'll treat you like a professional. And then you are a professional. So be what you want to be.
Yeah. That's great. All right, let's get back to tiny bacteria, because I thought I didn't know much about Eugenie Bondurant, and I don't say it as well as you do. I did see her in the Hunger Games there, but that scene, I want the bigger movie. I want you to. I just I was so drawn in. The quality of the shoot and the way that she just got into that role. I mean, I was like, wow. I mean, I felt like I was there. There was so much emotion there, and it was just a beautifully shot scene. So can you talk about the scene there, and also talk about some of your editors as well?
Sure. Well, we shot that in Eugenie's house, which is, it's a period piece, and Eugenie's living room was a period piece. So we shot it in her living room and her dining room. And we also just shot another film that I produced with Susanna Darwin, um, called Longer, which is also playing at Dunedin. And that's a very
Wow,
lush
cool.
film as well. Charlie Bragg, who I can't say enough about, he's been in the business for 40 years. He DP'd that as well.
Nice. Tell me
And
what,
that's
tell our viewers what DP is.
director of photography. And everybody has their own style and the way they shoot and their timing and different things, but you have to work with people that are of your same ilk, so that they know what you want. Charlie he can make it look flat and well lit, or he can make it look moody and deep,
It was
which is
moody and
what he
deep.
did. So
He
we
did.
talked about that, and I had never seen anybody. He took lights and put black foil just so there were little slits coming out of them and hitting her in certain places. So that's a big part of it. You have to create a team that's really amazing. Filmmaking is a team sport. You can do it by yourself, but the more quality people you bring in, the higher the level of your film rises. And I can't say enough about Rich Rodman either. He is really the only colorist in town that I know of that is at the level he's at. And he sits in his little studio all the time and does this amazing job at doing color. I've referred him to several folks. So he's
So
good.
So talk about that. So like you might upload the film to him and he would take it and sweeten it and strengthen and accentuate
He
certain
could,
colors.
exactly. So to give it a look, he can give it a look like 70s television, or he can give it any kind of look you want. And I actually saw him working on a piece once. It was a commercial ad for, I think it was a golf course. And whoever shot it, it's difficult sometimes to match the interior and exterior light. So he actually put mats in this thing so that he could change the depth of the color and the light in the outside area to match the inside area as it moved across the screen. So he can do anything. And just as far as making that mood again, each one of these people has a part, including the editor and the timing. Alexandra Gamache, who is now married, and I can't think of her last name, her new one. Anyway, she has worked with me. She used to work with me in my business, and I brought her up from just graduating at University of Tampa in film, teaching her the commercial end, and then I brought her on along with me to do my private personal work as well.
Okay.
So,
Well, and when you were talking about making movies on your iPhone, and that's kind of like it's sort of a condensed way to do things, and that's fascinating. That's something that you teach. I think about the different films that you've made, and the different films I've made, and you can really drill down and have experts in each of the areas that do lighting, do sound, do editing, write, produce, direct, and then I think there's so many different ways to make a movie. You can have people that do it all, one-stop shop, and they may be at different levels. I mean, there may be
right.
somebody that can nail all of them, all of those pieces, and do them well. Or you may have, these experts, and it's interesting when you talked about the lighting, detail of taking the little pieces of film and all that. I've watched the lighting folks, man, they are like ninjas and technicians. I mean, they'll get in there and just figure it out. And it's really fun to watch them work, these experts in these various areas. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yes, and I'll refer back to the film Longer, Susanna Darwin's film that we worked on about a year ago, I guess it was. And there is no way that film could have been made with just a couple people. I mean, we had grips and gaffers, and we had all kinds of folks doing all kinds of things. And to keep that, it was a 3-day shooting schedule. Even though it's a short, it was a huge film because it had music in it. There were things that we had to do to sync the music beforehand. We had to record the music professionally so that when they actually sang the music in the film, it looked real, and the musicians playing, etc. So sometimes it takes a lot of bodies, no matter what their level of
right.
But yes, you can make a nice, sweet little personal film like Saint Petra with just a few of us and all utilizing our skills, or you can do something like longer, which is rich in a lot of creativity coming from a lot of ends. We had personal assistants, we had just, makeup, everything. So when you have all that stuff, it just gets better. It does.
Okay, I want to talk about A Moving Feast. It makes me smile.
Okay.
And I recommend it. And if you don't mind, when we do some posting about this,
Sure.
I'll put the link out there for folks to watch it. I think you have it out there on
Yes.
YouTube.
Uh-huh.
But I want you to talk about it, but I want to tell you, it inspires me so much to know that these humans at my alma mater used to get together and do these off the chain creative activities, and that are inspirational, and a lot of these people are still around, and that you documented it and put a record out there, and that it's related to the University of South Florida, where we both went to school. So I just think it's a treasure, and I recommend it to anyone that needs some inspiration, because you guys had some fun. So talk about that.
We
Talk
did.
about it.
Well, you have to realize that USF, there goes Alexa.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry. So USF was a very young school when I went. I think it was probably about 20 years old or something. And they had 2 film departments. They had one in mass communications, which was more the film crew type thing. And then they had one in fine arts, which was go out, take the camera, do something, here. And you're like, what do I do? But fortunately, there were a lot of amazing, talented people there who are now off in different various places. One, Christine Naguer, makes beaded jewelry for big bands like Jethro Tull and stuff, and costumes. And Tony Barbin was vice president of Turner Classic Movies for quite a while. I don't know if he still is. My mentor, Ray Day, is a sound man in San Francisco. He does work for National Geo, Discovery Channel, et cetera, et cetera. Many more. Stan Cosma, who I still love. He's still here local. He's amazing as well. He's a cinematographer. Now, remember, we were shooting on film. We weren't shooting on video. Right. At the very end, we found a video. It was like a reel-to-reel video thing, and with a wire that you had to like take the camera and the video thing with you. And so it was like everything was heavy, and but it was awful quality. But we were actually working in film, and we all had these little booths that were probably about 4 feet wide by 6 feet long, and then tall ceilings. And we would lock ourselves in these booths and do the film rewinds and be there at 2 a.m. This was the late 70s, so it was insane. There were a lot of other things going on. But anyway, the movie itself is really about Chinsegut, which is an antebellum retreat that University of South Florida owns in Brooksville. So we would bring people in from Canada, from New York, from California, and they'd bring their film reels with them. But it wasn't just about film; it was about installations and just staying up all night talking and showing each other what you did, and then making this installation, and then a Brahma bull over there on the other side of the fence, and it was just crazy. And that morphed into the Chinsegut Film Festival at the Tides, which is no longer there. The Tide's there again, but they tore down that building. It was where Marilyn Monroe had her honeymoon.
That's the Gulf of Mexico. That's what
Yes.
Chinseget's in the middle of Florida, in the woods,
exactly.
And then you guys move this thing over to the beach.
Right, which was amazing.
It's a must see.
people never knew what to expect out of us. So, I mean, we found a window in the pool, so we were projecting into the pool. There were dancers coming out of the ocean and onto the beach. It was like insane.
Yeah,
And there was a lot of drinking. But
that happens.
anyway, that
Well,
morphed into the Ybor Film Festival.
sure.
David Audette has been
Yep.
instrumental, and Charles Lyman with all that. They've
Yep.
been amazing mentors to me as well.
Great. Well, great. Well, I could talk to you all day long, and I
Yeah,
appreciate you so
sure.
much. What you mean to the Tampa Bay area, what you've done for artists and me specifically. I appreciate you. And tell us where we can find you, and we'll put your various sites into the video so everybody can see it. But where do you hang out online, and what would you like people to think of you for in regards of, you know, hey, do you want to be hired for something, or do you just want to just go watch your movies? Or
I'm a little picky about getting hired these days because I have
good.
so much of my own stuff that's backlogged, but I am always open to an interesting script, an interesting idea, and also writing for other people if it's
Nice.
something of interest as well. I do hang out, of course, on most social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram, which I'm sure you'll put at the
I will.
lower third.
Yep.
And most of my films, I make them go through the festival circuit before I allow them to be online. So some are on YouTube, some are on Vimeo Pro, and some are on my website, which is amovieproductions.com.
Awesome.
So you can see quite a few of those creative narratives and documentaries there, as well as some of my commercial work,
Great.
which I'm starting to do bios on artists, actually. And I just did one actually for a writer who wrote a book recently, and that was a really good experience. And I've done
Good.
a couple of others, so that's something I'm adding to my repertoire.
Awesome. Good. Good. Well, thank you. And this has been the Art of Women Tampa Bay Art Chat with Victoria Jorgensen. And I appreciate your time.
I appreciate yours. Thanks.